the Dome of the Rock uh, is in the same place, and so is Al-Aqsa Mosque. Although the Masjid, the mosque, was torn down. If you look at the external references to Islam, the people in Jerusalem record it being the temple that stood at the Temple Mount was torn down, and they rebuilt their own mosque there. And said it could fit 3,000 people. So not really so much early talk about rebuilding the Dome of the Rock. The Jews were happy because they came in and they started clearing some of this rubble and it's just the stuff away from the Temple Mount, and they were building this up. But the foundations for both buildings were used. Again, I kind of have to take a skeptical look at this. I mean, I accept that you're Caroline, but again, just out of safety, I have no idea who you are. Somebody could be stupid. I'm just, and just try to like, gotcha, punked or something like that. But it's my main argument is they're using the foundations of this, and I think it can be shown. And but that's the only thing I want to clarify. I'm not saying there's total disagreement, but that I forget who it is. I don't know if it's Maximus the Confessor. It's not the Doctrine of Jacobi. Jacob, one of these things. They ripped down the temple that's up there and they put up the mosque. I'll add in the quote. Maybe it'll be in this. So I'll like put it over my face or something. But there's something that Digger says, which I think I can clear up too. But I'm not talking about Al-Aqsa Mosque. This is funny. Al-Aqsa is the mosque, not the Dome of the Rock. And they keep correcting each other on the same point, which I'm not laughing at them. It's just the comedy of when I come back and read this ongoing conversation. They seem to. It seems like it happened more than twice too. I'm not talking about the Dome of the Rock. I'm talking about Al-Aqsa Mosque, and I'm not talking about. And I don't know. Maybe I saw doubles of them. But it says I'm talking about the Dome of the Rock. This is a different building. How can Abdul Malik change the direction of the Qibla? I thought this was done by Muhammad. No Muslim can override Muhammad's commandments. You're talking about the reason why I could no longer go to the masjid, and I thought Sunnism was totally bankrupt, because this is essentially what the Sunnis do. All right, and now I'm at the point where I think that the Sunnah, at least the Hadith, ahadith, right? Ahadith, or that's double plural. Ahadith is way too pluralized. The ahadith or hadiths, like the collections of Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, are the ones that for the last few decades have been really pushed to the top. These are great, and then after that, if you need to find something, you go to Sunan Abu Dawud. This is Sunnism, right? And it's Muhammad's the exemplar. Anything he did, how he walked, talked, how you're. I mean, I would. Why can't my pant legs go by my ankle? What's up with that? But it's what Muhammad did, right? Even the biographies, you might think, oh, and this is a very tricky type of thing. Some people will try to pull out and argue from this, right? They'll try to argue from the life of Muhammad. But Muslims talking amongst themselves really don't like that. Christianity, even in Islam, Christianity Muslims are a continuation of Judaism and Christianity. This is where they see themselves, and this is their kind of link to it, just like the Christians link themselves to the Jews, right? Looks like I'm gonna have to make this in 2 parts, or I'll just slice it in half or something like that, and then send out the 2 parts. But there's a lot of things that tend to override what's in here, right? Which is what I was very disturbed about. But yeah, essentially that's what happens. It just this gets overridden, right, by the hadith, and the Qibla is not in the Quran. And remember, the reliable hadiths are not from 100 years later or 200, collected 300 years later. The most reliable, you can't even take the earlier ones. The earlier ones, that's considered, you're taking, you know, that would be like us looking at, it's not exactly like, but it would be like Christians looking at gospel, the infancy gospel of Thomas, or the sayings gospel of Thomas, or it's like for a Protestant to look at the Proto-Evangelium. In each case, I don't mean just look at, I mean look to, right? Look to the challenge or something like that. But probably the most damaging thing, or not the most damaging thing, but the one thing that I see that was or the one thing I'd have to really contend with is I don't know, somebody said it in, I don't know which one it was, but they said, oh, you're looking at this in a Christian perspective. Oh, here it is. But Muhammad didn't care about a Christian perspective. Just Christianity claimed to fulfill Judaism as a new revelation. They believe Islam superseded Christianity. Yeah, this is when what we know as this Islamic era was not out of its turmoil with itself. This was not even, I mean, we don't even, this is before the Quran discovered at Sana. If you look at the coins, they have crosses on them. That is that's a Christian inscription on there. I was virulently angry even after, this is the funny thing, even after leaving Islam, or I don't want to say I left Islam, after realizing Sunnism is not, that's you violated too much of what the Quran says. This is the insane indictment that's given against the Christians and the Jews in the Quran is is what I said. Look, you can't override. This is from Allah to Jibreel to Muhammad, and it's perfectly preserved. There's no hadith that can, all of Sahih al-Bukhari can speak against one line in it, then Sahih al-Bukhari has to be dumped. They said no. When Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim actually violate something in the Quran. So there's something strange about that. And the Quran actually, and Muslims will say this, that it's progress, and progress seems for man, right? Not for God, right? Especially if it's a book of dictation. All right, progress is not, God is eternal, not changing. Well, he changes his mind a hell of a lot in the Quran, and reissues orders. So there's clearly a progression in them, right? And even the attitudes towards the Jews and the Christians tend to change. I would say this is a period of Hagareanism or Mohammedism. We're not into what we would call Islam, not Sunni or Shia at this point, or even Creedite or the Ibadism. When you have, okay, in Islam, there is no making of images, neither drawn, nor carved, nor crafted in any way, woven, nothing of any animal or person, not allowed. It's idolatry, punished, you get killed for it, executed for it. And they're stamping coins, which have images of people, right there, idolatry. And they're holding crosses, right there, apostasy. You're not allowed to have the cross. That's not allowed. So if Islam were anything that anything of what we think of what it looks like today, we're off. And when you say, well, this wasn't Christian imagery, this was Islamic imagery, says who? You can't let modern day Islam inform you. It's not, no, it didn't exist back then. Modern Islam would be as foreign to Abdul Malik's time as something like Pentecostal Christianity would be to him. So, this is why is it that all the early Muslim buildings for about the first 200 years look identical to Byzantine Christianity? Why are they struggling with the same controversies, such as iconoclasm and all these other things, and you know, making statements that would be correct in the period of Byzantine Christianity, at least with the struggle going on with it outside of Constantinople and places like Antioch, Damascus. It's very strange. Also, this idea of Mecca, when the pagans of Mecca are described, they sound very much like Christians and Jews. And the Muslims are acting kind of like Christians and Jews. And all the flora and fauna that's described does not live in Mecca. It lives farther north. And even when he's talking to the people, he says, you cross these cities that was destroyed by God in Lot's time, speaking of Sodom and Gomorrah. So you cross them daily, you see them daily. Wait, that would put what Mecca is at around the Dead Sea. Now, do either of you know how many times Mecca is actually mentioned, or the Kaaba in the Quran? Not the titles of stuff, but how many times those two are actually mentioned. Funny thing, how many times Mary and Jesus and Moses and Abraham are mentioned. Muhammad, how many times is he mentioned? Is he really mentioned 4 times, or is he mentioned 3 times and it's heavily hinted at that the 4th one, Ahmed, is actually him? Oh, see, it's a root. We were told that's the important part of him, Ahmed. So a lot of this stuff starts to become suspect, and you're left going, wait, these people they're getting called heretics by everybody around them. You see Hagariya and Taeya is being translated as Muslim, but it's not Muslim, right? And you know, when you see it translated in English, it's like, wait, it's Hagariya or Taeya or Taeya, and it's like, huh, wait. So it's very strange. I think they built on the ruins, but to say this imagery is not Christian, that's the only possible thing. I mean, to interpret it through 5th century Christian eyes, or 6th century, 7th century, or even 4th century Christian eyes, you're going to get a much accurate reading than if you do of modern Sunnism. If you look at it through modern Sunni eyes, because the Sunnism, how it's practiced today, cannot be arrived at until after somebody like Ibn Kathir, I don't think, or at least Al-Tahir, which you've got some centuries in between there. I really like both you guys' comments. Cool. I like these topics where you got archaeology involved and history involved. That's my first love. Alright, peace to you. I got to Serbia, Syria, and Ireland. I hope you guys had a happy St. Patrick's Day.